you've been judged for it. Maybe someone rolled their eyes when you called yourself a dog mum. Maybe a family member made a comment at dinner when you said you couldn't come because your cat had a vet appointment. Maybe you've even judged yourself late at night, wondering if something is wrong with you for feeling more connected to your dog than to most people in your life. But what if I told you that the bond you feel isn't weakness, isn't immaturity, isn't avoidance? What if it's actually your brain functioning at a level most people don't understand? What if the reason you treat your pet like your child isn't because you're broken, but because your nervous system has found something most humans spend their entire lives searching for? This is the psychology of people who treat their pets like their children. And by the end of this, you're going to understand why your brain works this way and why it might actually be giving you something the rest of the world is missing. Let's start with what actually happens in your brain when you look at your pet. In 2014, researchers at Massachusetts General Hospital used fMRI scans to study mothers' brains as they looked at photos of their children and their dogs. What they found shocked the scientific community. The same neural networks lit up. The same regions responsible for emotion, reward, affiliation, and social connection activated, whether the mother was looking at her child or her pet. This wasn't metaphor. This wasn't exaggeration. Your brain is literally processing your relationship with your pet through the same pathways it would use for a human child. The medial orbitofrontal cortex, the region responsible for emotional bonds and attachment, doesn't distinguish between species. It distinguishes between connection. But here's where it gets deeper. When you interact with your pet, your brain releases oxytocin, the same hormone that floods a mother's system when she holds her newborn. A 2015 study from Asabu University in Japan found that when dogs and their owners gazed into each other's eyes, both experienced a 130% increase in oxytocin levels. That's not a small spike. That's a biological bond being formed and reinforced in real time. Your nervous system is telling you something true. This isn't delusion. This is attachment. Now let's talk about why this matters more for some people than others. Because not everyone feels this way about their pets. Some people like their dog. You love yours like it's a living extension of your soul. So what makes you different? The answer lies in something psychologists call attachment style. If you grew up in an environment where human connection felt unpredictable, conditional, or unsafe, your nervous system learned to protect itself. It learned that people leave, people judge, people require performance. But your dog, your cat, they don't require you to be anything other than present. Dr. John Bowlby, the founder of attachment theory, spent decades studying how early bonds shape our capacity for connection. What he found was this: humans don't stop seeking attachment just because it was difficult the first time. We redirect it. We find safer targets. And for many people, pets become the safest target available. This isn't avoidance. This is survival strategy. Your brain found a way to meet one of its most fundamental needs: belonging, without the risk of rejection, betrayal, or abandonment. That's not weakness, that's adaptation. But there's another layer to this, something most people never consider. When you treat your pet like your child, you're not just receiving love, you're also giving it. And that act of caregiving does something profound to your sense of identity. Erik Erikson, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, identified genitentry as a core human need. Genitivity is the drive to nurture, to care for something beyond yourself, to create meaning through contribution. Traditionally, people meet this need through children. But generativity doesn't care about biology. It cares about purpose. When you feed your dog the same meal at the same time every day, when you notice the slightest change in your cat's behavior, when you plan your life around their comfort, you are fulfilling a deeply human psychological function. You are mattering to another living being, and your brain rewards you for it. The ventral striatum, part of your brain's reward system, activates during caregiving behavior. Dopamine is released. Not the shallow dopamine of scrolling or shopping, but the deep, sustained dopamine of meaning. You're not substituting a child. You're meeting a need that exists whether or not you ever have one. Let's address the judgment for a moment. Because you felt it. Society has a script for what maturity looks like, what responsibility looks like, what love is supposed to be directed toward. And when you deviate from that script, people get uncomfortable. But here's what they don't understand. The same culture that judges you for loving your pet too much is the same culture experiencing record levels of loneliness, anxiety, and disconnection. A 2018 study from Cigna found that nearly half of Americans report feeling alone or left out. The Surgeon General has called loneliness a public health epidemic. You found a solution. You found a relationship that is consistent, reciprocal, and biochemically real, while others are drowning in surface-level connections that leave them empty. You have something that actually regulates your nervous system, something that actually makes you feel less alone. The judgment isn't about you. It's about their discomfort with the fact that you opted out of the traditional path and found peace anyway. Now, there's a specific type of person who tends to form these bonds most intensely, and if you're still listening, it's probably you. You're likely someone who feels deeply, notices details others miss, has been told you're too sensitive, too emotional, too much. Psychologists call this high sensory processing sensitivity. Dr. Elaine Aron has studied this trait for decades. About 20% of the population has this wiring. And here's the thing. High sensitivity makes human relationships exhausting. You pick up on every micro-expression, every shift in tone, every unspoken tension. But with your pet, there's no performance, no hidden agenda. No social chess game, just presence. Your pet meets you in a space of pure nervous system regulation. And for someone wired like you, that's not indulgence, that's necessity. There's also a neurological reason your pet can calm you in ways humans can't. When you're stressed, your amygdala, the brain's fear center, goes into overdrive. Your sympathetic nervous system activates, you enter fight or flight. Human interaction in this state often makes things worse. To your pet is predictable. Your pet is safe. Studies from Washington State University found that just 10 minutes of petting an animal significantly reduced cortisol levels in college students. Not distraction, not placebo, actual physiological regulation. Your pet acts as a co-regulator for your nervous system. Your heart rate variability increases, a marker of parasympathetic activation. You drop out of threat mode and into rest mode. This is why you can breathe around your pet in a way you can't around people. It's not about preferring animals to humans. It's about your nervous system recognizing safety. Let's talk about meaning, because that's what this is really about. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust, wrote that humans can endure almost anything if they have a reason to, if they have something that matters. You didn't find meaning in the traditional places, but your pet gave you something unconditional, something that needed you, specifically you, to survive and thrive. Every time you come home and they greet you like you're the most important being in the universe, your brain receives confirmation. You matter. You matter. You are necessary. You are loved. Just for existing. That is a type of meaning most people never experience. So here's what I want you to take from this. You're not broken. You're not immature. You're not substituting. You're responding to a biological, psychological, and neurological reality. Your brain has formed an attachment bond chemically identical to a parental bond. Your nervous system has found regulation that works. Your sense of meaning has anchored itself to something that reciprocates. The world might not understand it, but your brain does. And your brain is not wrong. You treat your pet like your child because, in every way that matters to your nervous system, they are. That's not a problem to fix. That's a bond to honor.